Hello, and thank you for watching this Northeast Regional Forecast. I'm Andrew Pritchard, meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. Over the next 10 days, as we head into the end of October, the beginning of November, we're really watching a transition to a much colder pattern across the Central Plains, to the Midwest, into the Southeast, and then eventually across the entire Northeast region as we head into mid and late next week. That again, the end of October, the beginning of October or November. And then also dealing with an unsettled pattern, one that's going to bring several storm systems to the area. We're delivering chances for rainfall each time. The first one making its way in here through this weekend, coming in through Sunday. Then watching for the potential for several other storm systems, one or more developing across the central U.S., swinging into the region, bringing the chance for some heavy rainfall across the eastern third of the country. Also talking about enough cold air coming in on the backside here that some of that precipitation could be in the form of some light snow, especially across parts of the Midwest. Iowa looking at the chance for some accumulating snow midweek, but then even western portions here of the Northeast region here, high elevations of Pennsylvania and New York State, perhaps some accumulating snow mid next week. Now, it's been a quiet last 24 hours or so as we watch precipitation begin to accumulate across the southern plains, getting into the Ozarks. That'll make its way into the eastern Corn Belt tomorrow, and then eventually into the entire Northeast region here for the day on Sunday. As we look at the satellite picture, then we're watching all kinds of moisture stream northward. We're seeing the cloud cover here beginning to move northward from the Gulf of Mexico with this developing storm system. Lots of moisture streaming northward. And then the strong jet stream winds come diving in like this, taking some of this moisture and blowing it through the mid-levels, bringing it into the Northeast region. So even though the storm system itself is still well off to the southwest, seeing some of the cloud cover associated with the moisture here being drawn northward already as we end the work week here on this Friday. Now looking at the radar picture, we're seeing the rain and thunderstorm activity making its way in from the Gulf here across the southern U.S., getting into the Ozarks, and then eventually into the eastern Corn Belt here for the day on Saturday, and then into the Northeast region on Sunday. Now we're looking at the precipitable water plot here. This is a way of looking at the moisture content within the atmosphere. And what you're going to see when this loop plays is this feed of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico drawing northward up and around the center of that area of low pressure as it travels from Texas through this eastern Corn Belt again tomorrow, and then into the Northeast region on Sunday. So we'll play this loop here. You see Saturday night, or Friday night, I'm sorry, now midday Saturday, Saturday night, Sunday morning, into midday Sunday now, watching that storm move across the Northeast region. So here you go one more time. Just really fun to watch the northward transport of that deep Gulf of Mexico moisture into the Northeast region. So the precipitation type forecast then from the Northeast region, or from the high resolution NAM model, looking at the Northeast region, we'll see a couple areas of maybe some light rain showers developing on later tonight, moving through parts of New York State into New Hampshire, Vermont, maybe Massachusetts, and southern Maine, seeing some light rain showers overnight, but otherwise a quiet start to the weekend. As we get the day started on Saturday, quiet across the Northeast region. It's Saturday afternoon, perhaps, that we could see some very light rain showers. The first raindrops falling across western and central Pennsylvania into southwestern New York. And then overnight Saturday, the rain overspreads the area. So by the time we wake up on Sunday morning, likely seeing at least off and on rain showers just about everybody. And then as we get into midday Sunday, perhaps even seeing some thunderstorms develop here across that area, parts of southern New York into Pennsylvania, New Jersey, on into the along the East Coast, as the main front sweeps through the region. Now, total accumulated precipitation from the high-resolution NAM model is only going to get us out to about 1 p.m. on Saturday, or 1 p.m. on Sunday. As we go through the weekend, expecting the heaviest precipitation naturally here closer to the Gulf, across the Gulf Coast states into the mid-Mississippi Valley here, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain, perhaps locally higher. As we get into the eastern Corn Belt, the Ohio River Valley, this is where we're talking about 1 to 3 inches of rain. And then getting off into the Northeast region by the time we get to the end of the weekend into early Monday, probably looking at widespread opportunities for folks to pick up about a half an inch to maybe an inch or locally higher. Then we have a total mess when we head into what is next week. We're looking at 500 millibar vorticity here. So broadly speaking, looking at areas of spin in the mid-levels of the atmosphere within the jet stream here, and we look for heightened areas of here, these vorticity maximums, as we call them, these areas of vorticity. In advance of those, that's where we often see the development of low pressure at the surface and the associated cloud cover and rainfall with that storm system. So kind of an easy way we can kind of track the potential for storm systems developing across the region. As we start this loop, we'll watch this first disturbance travel northward across the northeast region. We're then going to watch several disturbances spilling out of the Canadian Prairie as we head into mid-next week, and we'll dissect where each of those goes here on this GFS run. Let's take it back, let's play this out over time. So watching as we go first through the weekend, watching this system quickly track northeast. You're watching the first wave dive out of Canada, and you're going to see two trajectories here. A piece of that energy goes off to the northwest across, or off to the north and to the east across Manitoba and Ontario. We see another piece dive way across the Four Corners region here as we get into the early part of next week. And we're watching another disturbance travel southward out of the prairie as we get into the middle part of the next week. And I got to tell you again, the model has a terrible handle on this. This should lead to the development of one or more storm systems here across the Central Plains. And that is what most of the models show here, the European model being one of those that's consistently shown 1 to 2 strong storm systems lifting across the region. But I'll show you the problem here with the GFS operational run. We see this first storm making its way here Friday through Sunday. There it goes. We'll get that out of here. This is when the mess begins. The GFS is taking a progressive approach here, and what that means is quick-moving, subtle storm systems. So we see this first wave, watch it travel right through here, very subtle, quick-moving. Here comes another one, going to quickly lift out into the northeast region during the middle part of the week. Now what the European model is showing at this same time frame, let's go ahead and take this loop out of here. Let's get the Sunday storm system gone. We're into mid-next week now, looking at these very weak, fast-moving, subtle storm systems the GFS is advertising. During the same time frame, the European model, which has been consistent here with several other medium-range models and is also consistent with the ensembles. And what I mean there is the operational run, that's one run of the GFS. That's one run of the European model. And we can take that model, give it different beginning conditions, just slightly different, run that model 20 to 50 different times, depending on which model we're using, and get many different outcomes here and kind of get a blend there where you're looking at a consensus approach instead of just one forecast model. So what we're seeing and what is the likely outcome here of a pattern like this as we head into the middle part of next week is several storm systems developing, at least 1 or 2 across the Midwest like that, with rain off to the south, rain and thunderstorms in the warm sector, and on the backside, the chance for some snow across the Central Plains into the Midwest and the Great Lakes. These storm systems then track off to the northeast through the northeast region, again, bringing potentially heavy rain to much of the northeast region, and then maybe even some very light snow accumulating in western areas with some of the cold air coming in on the backside. So while the GFS goes along with its very quiet progressive pattern, we have to understand that most of the other models and then the ensembles here are cluing us in on what is a much more active pattern across this region than we're seeing with the GFS model. Now we can look at the ensemble forecast. Now we're looking at the blend of the many different members that are run here, and that's where we pick up on that snow potential. So even though the GFS operational model not showing the big storm sweeping through the region, when we take the ensembles, we look at all of the different outcomes here that are put forth, we see better than 50% chance of 3 inches or more of snow accumulating from Wisconsin into parts of Iowa and then back into the Central Plains. So while the GFS operational model continues to be atrocious, whatever adjective you want to use for it, just almost a waste, we can dive a bit deeper into the details and pick out what's an active pattern across the eastern third of the country, with the potential for some snow across the Midwest. Now, what's not a question mark at this point is the very cold air that's going to be coming into the region, starting in the Midwest early this week, getting into the Northeast region by the time we get to the end of the week into the weekend. We'll finish, though, just looking at the temperatures for the next 5 days. Your highs for the day today in the mid-50s to the lower 60s in the south. Similar picture for the day on Saturday, warmer slightly on Sunday with lower 60s to near 70 possible across New Jersey. As we head into the early part of the week, looking at high temperatures anywhere in the upper 50s into the lower 60s, slightly warmer for the day on Tuesday. Now we'll deal with a couple of chilly nights here to get the weekend started. We'll look at those here Saturday night, looking at potentially below freezing temperatures across the north, and a similar look on Sunday, even though lows in parts of Pennsylvania in the lower 50s on Sunday morning. Mostly in the lower 40s for the night on Sunday night into Monday morning. Tuesday morning, once again waking up with temperatures in the mid-50s, but noting the very cold air coming in from the west. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning ag forecast video, and I will have your next check-in with the Northeast region on Tuesday morning. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.